Meet Reed Lance Rosenthal, rancher, #1 best-selling, award-winning author, and unabashedly, unapologetically on the right side of the outstanding issues of our generation. But don't try to fence him in. Sometimes his positions will surprise you, because Reed is definitely his own man, with his own opinions. You might love him, you might hate him, but you won't be able to stop listening. Step over to the right side with Reed.
Howdy, viewers and listeners around the globe, the Gulf to the 51st state. I think I got this backwards, didn't I? And around the United States. Reed Lance Rosenthal. This is July 3rd, right? One day before our 250th birthday. I'm going to have a really cool July 4th show for you. It'll be coming out tomorrow. This one, I hope, will be coming out today. We'll see how the producers get it going. I'm going to skip the rant. This is going to be short and sweet. This is an update show, okay? Because there's some big things that have happened over the last week, and we need to go over them so that you know what's going on. Tomorrow's show, July 4th, is going to be a little history of the signing of the Declaration of Independence, a repeat from one of my previous shows, which I think you'll really like, and some thoughts from me on our 250th birthday. And I think it'll be uplifting. I'm not sure that this show will really, should we say, relax you. How's that? It probably will not. Nonetheless, this is stuff you need to know. So first of all, we'll start off with the founder's quote, and I think it's apropos the day before the 250th birthday, and with what's going on in the world and around the country, to give you a founder's quote, and that's from Benjamin Franklin. And if you remember, when he came out of the hall in Philadelphia, he was asked by a lady on the street, "So what did you give us? Did you give us a monarchy? What did you give us?" He said, "We've given you a republic if you can keep it." And that's about where we're at, folks. Let's start right off, shall we? Number one, Iran. I've told you what I think Trump's errors have been. I'm not backing down on that. This blockade needs to be in place again. The IRGC needs to be taken out. You finally have some internal strife and kinetic conflict going on in Iran, primarily through the Kurds and other groups which are in opposition to the regime. And we'll see how it all plays out. More on that in the show after next, where I'm going to continue our fraud, the last section of our fraud study. Wow. Well, your hair will curl. I guarantee you. Your eyes will cross. Massachusetts. I want you to know that Massachusetts, their electric bills have now been adjusted by the Massachusetts legislature and in cahoots with the utility companies. And electric bills have gone up 3x, that is 300%, in certain zip codes, because, we need to spread the wealth. If you're in a wealthy zip code, you are now paying 300% of what somebody in a different zip code is paying for power rates. Think about that for the future, folks. You talk about wealth redistribution. That's just one of the many ways. Home contract cancellations last month reached 13.6%. 13.6% of every contract written on a home, used or new, in the United States canceled, didn't fall through, canceled the purchase agreement prior to closing last month. That's huge. Tulsi Gabbard. As you know, Tulsi Gabbard left, unfortunately, a couple weeks ago, supposedly due to health problems of her hubby, and maybe that's exactly correct. Before she did, she dumped a bunch of Fauci-related COVID fraud stuff, and Fauci is now under the gun. I'm going to keep you apprised of that. Remember that OnTheRightSideRadio.com has all these articles. Everything I'm talking to you about is right there. I'm going to be talking about the Supreme Court. All the court articles are there. This Tulsi Gabbard and Fauci stuff is there. Read up on it. Okay, this is big stuff. Big stuff. The UN, the United Nations, those globalist friends of ours, you can't make this up. They appointed Iran, as the head of the United Nations Human Rights Commission. There you go, folks. The UN is our friends. Like I've said, defund them, turn the UN building into Mondami rent-free apartments, whatever you want to do, we'll be ahead of the game. The Supreme Court. This was a huge week at the Supreme Court. Some of it good, some of it not good at all. They struck down the Hawaiian gun control law, which is great for gun control. The article is under gun control and courts on the website on the rightsideradio.com. This was how states were trying to get around the recent Second Amendment Supreme Court decisions by saying, okay, well, you have the right to have a firearm, but you can't take it anywhere. You know, that got struck down. That's terrific. Illegals. Illegals are not eligible for asylum, green cards, whatever have you, until they have 1 foot in the country, 1 foot on the lands of the United States, because a lot of illegals through NGOs and other democratic communist outfits were trying to, shall we say, pave the way before they actually got to the country of getting in here. That was struck down. That was great. That's under immigration and courts. Sex. Oh, did I catch your attention? Women's sports. The Supreme Court upheld the fact that there are 2 biological sexes. Wow. But that's great. And they upheld the right of women to compete in women athletics without anybody from the biological male part of the human race in the deal. That's great, particularly for gals and particularly for all those ladies who have worked so hard in their athletic endeavors only to have the gold medal stolen by a man. That was just a 5-4 decision. I want you to think about that. The birthright ban. This is really bad. Trump enacted an executive order where if you are a birth tourist, in other words, you fly here for 1 day, you deliver your baby, and you fly back to wherever, like China, that isn't going to happen anymore. The other side, the Dem commies, argued the 14th Amendment, blah, blah, blah. I won't bore you with the details. It's all in the articles. There's a number of them under the audio bar, courts and immigration. And in a 5-4 decision, I'm very disappointed in Amy Conant Barrett. I don't expect much else from John Roberts. In a 5-4 decision, they struck down the birthright, scathing dissents by Alito, Kavanaugh, etc. And if you think about it, folks, and this is happening right now. I mean, China has a whole birth tourism industry. You basically fly the United States for a day or two, you deliver your baby, you fly back to your home country, who is not friendly to the United States, with your United States citizen baby. And from there on, you indoctrinate them into hate America. And then you send them back to the country where they can vote, contribute to campaign elections, and do whatever other mischief they are doing. Not to mention, a U.S. citizen can bring in their family to the United States, right? The other leg of the immigration law. I don't need to paint the picture of how bad this is. Now there's legislation. Kavanaugh suggested that the Congress get together and get legislation to fix this. Whether or not that will pass between the rhinos and the Dem commies, I don't know. But that's where it sits right now. Barrett and Roberts, by the way, were the 2 so-called conservatives who voted with the 3 liberals on that deal. The birthright citizenship, by the way, just as a historical sidelight, originated in the 14th Amendment strictly during the Civil War or right after, so that the sons and daughters of freed slaves would be United States citizens. That's the historical context. It was not meant for how it's being used today, but the historical context was ignored by the slim majority that struck down the prohibition on birthright citizenship. Uh, Deadlines for mail-in ballots. Trump had proposed in his sweeping executive order that ballots received by mail after Election Day should not count. The same 5-4 majority, it's unbelievable, said no, we're going to defer to state law, and if your ballot comes in up to 5 days after Election Day, it's just fine. It just has to be postmarked on Election Day. Well, folks, I don't need to tell you what can happen with a crooked postal service and postmarks, or on knowing the outcome of an election late on election night and trying to alter it in the 5 days that you have thereafter. We've seen plenty of examples. Once again, this is going to have to be legislated, it appears, and very, very bad ruling. You would think in the United States of America, if you're going to vote, you can get your vote at least postmarked, or your vote at least in by Election Day, or you can vote in person on Election Day. And we have seen out in California, just in the past month, what happens when that doesn't happen, i.e., the LA mayor's race, where the Republican was far ahead, and then suddenly in the 30 days that mail-in ballots were coming in, he fell behind. Wow, what a coincidence. Let's see, what else do we have? Oh, the Supreme Court deal that was overturned, and this is great. This has to do with agency authority, agency regulatory authority. There's a 90-year precedent. It's a case called Humphrey's Executors, and that was overturned. This is a good one by the Supreme Court, and it ruled that Trump can fire executives in any agency. Now, this is a two-edged sword, because so can the Dem commies if and when they are in power again. But therefore, you can, should we say, steer the activities of that regulatory agency and the regulations that it promulgates and enforces. All in all, a ruling that is good for America. Think about the EPA under Obama trying to control the rainwater on your roof. I'm not making that up. That's true. So that goes by the wayside, at least for now. That is my quick update for you, particularly the Supreme Court stuff. Once again, the articles are on therightsideradio.com. Take a look at them. Every one of these affects your life. I mean, in all sorts of ways. You need to be up to speed, and you need to understand the implications for the midterms. There's 35x, 44x, and I think 50x multipliers under elections donations. Send $10, send $20, send $30. I mean, with a 40x multiplier, you are contributing $2,000, whatever, to the campaign. You can't get a better bang for your buck, and for your life, I might add. You will see the July 4th show tomorrow, and to all of you, I wish you a great July 4th. Don't forget what this date really means. It's not just hot dogs, buns, sunshine, and frolicking at the lake. It's way more than that, okay? And remember Benjamin Franklin's quote, "We've given you a republic if you can keep it." This is Reed Lance Rosenthal on the Right Side Radio and the Cowboys Take. We'll talk to you in 24 hours. Bye now.
Please remember, if you've missed any shows, just click on Show Archive and you'll find all of his shows. We look forward to seeing you here again next week for another episode of Reed Lance Rosenthal on the Right Side.